Email versus snail mail. Elisha and I recently watched You've Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle because we thought it would be fun to compare the two. However, our memories are a little different because Sleepless in Seattle, there was one letter exchange.
Well, two, technically, right? The son also wrote the letter.
Right.
And she was like, oh, this guy can't write.
And You've Got Mail, those were emails, but she was emailing with a stranger.
The only person she ever emailed.
Who she met in a chat room, which I don't know about you, but we listened to the audiobook face to face when we were too young. And I'm not chatting with strangers in a chat room, that's for sure.
Yeah, I warned my daughter as we were watching. I was like, no, you don't want to be emailing anyone you don't know.
No, but I mean, I'll take any excuse to watch a rom-com.
Oh, man. And it takes you back, too. That was a nice little shot of nostalgia.
It was.
Seeing the icons, seeing the little, like, yellow figurines that are all like, oh.
The sound effects.
Yeah.
That very...
You've got mail.
You would think that's a recording. No, Elisha did that all
It was
with her
all
mouth.
Me. Watching it with my daughter and getting to explain to her how all of it used to work. And she was just like, what?
Did you have to explain to her how, if anyone picked up the phone, your online time was done?
I didn't explain that to her. I did explain to her that you had like CDs that bought you a certain amount of hours on the internet, which is what? So weird.
A different
to think
time.
about.
Right now, it's just at our fingertips any moment of any day. And if it's not, we're like, what?
So we watched them with the thought of, oh, this will be fun and informative. And it was not informative, though it was fun.
No. And you said you actually got a little verklempt.
Verklempt?
Yeah. Doesn't that mean like a little sad?
I think it does, but I just love that you used it more than anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to use my word of the day.
Yeah. Well, whenever the big corporate bookstore came in and then the small business had to shut
That's
their
the one that
doors.
made you cry? You've Got Mail? Not like young child loses his mom?
That was sad, yes. But like at this point of time in my life, thinking about having to shutter my small business and then also thinking of like dancing around and spending time in it with my daughter was really, really sad.
Have you danced in your refillery with your daughter?
Well, I'm going to now.
Make sure you get that memory in there.
Yes. We've wrapped a lot of soap together.
That'll be fun for her to picture. Child labor. You've Got Mail.
So much mail.
Yep, and every email, every attachment, every unread newsletter you swore you'd get to is quietly stacking up in data centers that are burning through energy.
And let's not forget about junk mail, the original inbox clutter, which really just piles up on your kitchen counter instead of your spam folder now.
Today, we're sorting through the mess, digital and physical, to figure out how we can all lighten the load.
No need to go postal. One can hope. Inbox overload, snail mail that's off the rails. Let's deliver the facts.
And that's FACTS, not FAX. We're going to talk about fax machines in another episode.
Are we? I
No.
mean, why?
Here's a stat from Mike Berners-Lee and the Financial Times. Berners-Lee estimated that globally, emails accounted for about 0.3% of the world's carbon footprint in 2019. So about half of the emails sent are spam.
Of all emails sent, about half are just spam?
50%. Yes.
Okay.
The other half, relatively useful. They take the writer about 3 minutes to compose, and then it takes about a minute to read.
Okay. I can tell you right now, these aren't long love letters.
And also, your job should not be sending long love letters. And I feel like that's the majority of emails these days, but I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I don't really know about the workforce.
That's what I do all day, every day, is just send love letters via email
To your coworkers?
to my coworkers and customers. Is that not what small businesses are supposed to be doing?
This Berners-Lee estimated that email usage per person is equivalent to driving about 128 miles in a small car.
Well, according to a report by the Financial Times, the data servers that house our emails now exceed the total carbon footprint of pre-COVID air travel. Most of the emissions come from the amount of energy these servers consume. And given that only 5% of the global power grid comes from renewable sources, that means most of our emails are powered by fossil fuels.
I feel speechless.
Yes, just wait until we talk more about data centers later. You're not going to know what to say.
It really makes me rethink sending an email. Like, how necessary is this?
Well, and now that people are using AI to send emails, that's a whole other
Okay,
thing.
you know what? Don't even go there.
Future episode, but very needed.
One report did a little math and determined that if each person in the United Kingdom sent one less thank you email.
Like, thank you as a response?
Yes, like you got your information from a colleague and you just replied, thanks, thank you.
Yeah.
It would save over 16,433 tons of carbon a year, which is the same as about 81,152 flights to Madrid from the UK, or taking 3,334 diesel cars off the road.
Oh my gosh, I'm thinking of how many times I'm like, got it, received.
Right. Cheers. That's probably what they're saying in the UK.
Okay, so then this though begs the question, like, how do you let people know that you got an email?
You write them a letter.
You put it in. You just have it in your email signature at the bottom.
I probably got this.
I'm not going to tell you thank you for getting this.
Or make it worth their while. Don't just send thanks. Send all kinds of stuff.
Yes.
Like, here's more information. Thank you. Also,
No, maybe.
Maisie just graduated. Just graduated kindergarten. And Timothy started acting and got the role of Robin Hood. Do emails have the option, and I honestly don't know this because I'm not doing a lot of professional emailing. Do they have the option to show that it's been read? You know how texts, sometimes it'll say,
Yeah.
this has been seen by the
It has.
recipient.
I definitely turned that feature off.
Well, maybe we should bring it back.
In emails? Yeah, but sometimes you read it and you're like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah, but they need to know you got it. Or maybe you don't want them to know. How do you let them know?
Oh, yeah, because I'm also thinking of the number of times I'm like, sorry, didn't see this email.
Right?
Definitely
You definitely
saw
did.
it, but I just didn't have time to respond.
Or then you don't respond and then they have to send another one saying, I just want to make sure you got this.
Yeah. What's the solution? You just got to pick up the phone and call.
Call me, beep me if you want to reach me. Like Kim Possible.
Is that what that's from?
Yeah.
Kim Possible?
Yeah.
That was after my time.
Oh, too bad.
Clearly.
That's a good one.
Sounds like I missed out on a great time.
So here's the thing. It was incredibly difficult for me to find numbers on the environmental impact of one letter compared to one email. But I did find some information on junk mail.
Okay, let's hear it.
Not a lot.
Well, what's funny is you didn't find a lot, but we get so much.
So much.
Even after opting out and all of those things that we'll talk about later.
Yeah. In 2023, the United States Postal Service delivered 116.2 billion pieces of mail. And about half of that, so 59.4 billion, were marketing, which is
Okay, see, so half of emails are spam and half of letters are marketing, junk mail.
junk mail.
What is happening?
Well, the USPS makes a lot of money on junk mail.
Oh, right, that makes sense.
So it helps fund them, but it's not great because it requires a lot of paper. And a lot of junk mail that comes has that shine to
I know
it,
you
which
can't
means it's got a
recycle it.
plastic
You can't
coating.
do anything with it.
It's not great. I mean, you can do some things with it, but how much
Yeah.
junk mail can you possibly use?
So half of our emails are spam. Half of our snail mail is junk mail. How many of those remaining letters do you think are just Thanks.
In our snail mailbox?
Should we stop sending thank you notes?
I mean, I'm all for it.
Those are exhausting.
The moral of the story is junk in the trunk, cute, sassy, fierce. Junk in your inbox? Junk in your mailbox? Not cute, not sassy.
What a waste. We know the internet is not going away.
No, in fact, it's pretty necessary.
Yeah, and it's getting bigger. As is the impact on our planet. And that impact really does rely on businesses and individuals and the government. We are responsible for just how much of an impact it has. So the internet is not going away. No. And if we want a greener future, we need better policies, more responsible technology.
More awareness.
Right, about our digital habits and how they're affecting the world. We got to tame the inbox. So a lot of our listeners are familiar with the cloud and how you can access pretty much anything you would need digitally through the cloud.
You're probably using it for photo storage, text messages, emails. It all is just saved in this endless pit, which is the cloud.
It's how you're able to access your emails from any computer.
Or how you may be able to access photos from 10 years ago if you've been uploading them to the cloud.
Right. Or like whenever you get that, like, hey, your phone's running out of storage, but you can dump it all onto the cloud and then free up space on your phone.
Right.
But what you might not know is just how much energy the cloud uses.
Right, because all of those pictures, emails, text messages are all stored on servers somewhere.
Right. There is a physical location. Even though it's not physically in your phone or on your computer, it is being stored on a computer somewhere.
Or on many, many, many computers that all have to be plugged in and take a lot of energy.
And a lot of water. In fact, one anthropologist did a lot of work, about 5 years of research. He looked into it, looked at field studies and everything, and was able to determine just how much energy and water and e-waste was all used for the cloud. And I'll just mention a couple of the things that he pointed out. Data centers need huge amounts of electricity, sometimes more than countries need, like small countries. And similar to what we were talking about earlier, how emails use fossil fuels typically, that's the same with the energy needed for these storage centers. So most are running on dirty energy.
Right.
They're also using millions of gallons of water.
For what?
Because think of a computer and it has the fans and everything like that.
I don't think you're supposed to pour water on computers.
They have to be cooled. So they have to keep the servers really, really cool in order to run efficiently and effectively. And so the water is the best way to do that they found, I guess, at
Like a
this
little
point.
mister, like we used to use at soccer games.
Yeah, like whenever you go to a theme park and you got the like little misting and you're like, I'm just I'll be right back.
Or like the those cooling bandanas that you wrap around your neck. There's
Yeah.
just someone wrapping them all.
Yes, a server bandana. I don't think it's like that.
Okay. So you think maybe more the water is being used in the air conditioning system.
Yes.
That makes more sense.
A little more sense. And that's an issue, especially because many of these are in like vast desert places where there are droughts. So water is already scarce.
It's also not cool there. So you're
No.
going to need more.
Exactly.
That feels like bad design.
And then not to mention the e-waste or the electronic waste in the same way that we're always, not you and I, but consumers in general will typically update their phones on a pretty regular basis or their computers. The same needs to happen with these different technologies. So if they break or they're outdated or something like that, they're going to most likely end up in the landfill.
Right, because only some of the parts are recyclable.
Yeah, and I think only like 16% of the electronic waste is actually recycled. Recycling, we have learned.
It's not the answer to everything that we once hoped.
No.
These data centers have real world consequences.
You call them data centers?
Should they be data? Is it data?
I don't know. Some people say data and some people say data.
Is there a correct way to say it?
I don't know. Listeners?
Somebody let me know.
But if you're going to send it via email, make sure it also tells us about
What your kids are up to. Or, how things are going at work. Data centers. So data centers.
You can say data.
Which sounds better? Data centers contribute more to climate change than the airline industry.
That doesn't sound great to me.
Or data centers contribute more to climate change than the airline industry.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good either.
Lose. Either way you pronounce it, it doesn't sound great.
It doesn't sound great.
More than the airline industry.
Yeah, that was surprising to me, actually. Because we always hear about people complaining about, the private jets. But then whenever you look at it, maybe we really should be thinking more about the tech industry.
There's also noise pollution. So for surrounding neighborhoods, apparently these centers
It's like a low hum.
But imagine that 24/7. But it's not like a cute, scruffy 38-year-old.
It's not like a sound machine.
It's just a machine.
Yeah.
Nonstop.
You probably feel it too. I wonder how the energy field is around that as well.
Also, the animals have to be annoyed by that.
Yeah, that can't be good.
And a lot of these big tech companies like Google, Amazon are making promises to lower their environmental impact.
Which is awesome.
Except that they're
Except-
not always following through with these promises.
Well, yeah, it's not legally enforced or anything.
It's not. And, it would take some changes. It would take some investments to get things on a better path. And let's be honest, a lot of the people at the top are more concerned about a profit
Sure.
than their environmental impact.
Yeah. It's why some companies adopt the triple bottom line idea. Have you ever heard of this?
Is that anything like Fat Bottom Girls?
No.
Okay, because I know that one.
Not the same.
Okay.
So a lot of companies will look at profit as the bottom line. Like you want to make as much money as you can. But with companies that are aiming for a triple bottom line, they actually consider people, planet, and profit.
As equal? Mm-hmm. That's nice.
It's why we try to support companies that follow that mindset. Because if profit is your only goal, the likelihood of the company actually enforcing meaningful change is, we're grasping here.
Right. I think it's safe to say that the necessary changes won't be made unless they're forced to by government policy, by different laws,
Regulations. that kind of thing.
regulations. So if you're looking to send an email,
Make it count.
send one to your representative and ask for these kind of policies to be put in place.
And in the meantime, support those triple bottom companies. Make that.
Rockin' world go round.
Dun, 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 dun.
We think it's unlikely that any of our listeners are running data centers. But there are some
Hey,
things.
you never know.
Who knows?
We got some movers and some shakers listening to this. I'm sure of it.
But there are some things you can do at home to declutter your inbox.
We actually had a woman come to the shop last year and kind of walk us through ways to get to inbox zero. I'll actually add a link to this podcast so that you can check out her whole method. It was very helpful. As a class, we ended up getting rid of, I think it was like over 100,000 emails.
How satisfying.
It was very satisfying, not just like mentally, but also for the planet.
Right. Well, can you give us a few tips?
There was a lot of being honest with yourself, trying to figure out if you would actually be reading these certain emails again. She led you to look at your current inbox and kind of set up filters in a really smart way, but also set up times for you to answer things. And I don't know, I can't explain it, but created great boundaries for your personal life as well,
Okay.
so that you're not answering emails in the middle of the night. So a whole different level of sustainability.
Wow. Yeah.
So I highly recommend it. She's Avi Fox is her name. And like I said, I will include a link to her inbox zero in case anyone's interested.
A few tips for a leaner inbox.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, unsubscribing from unnecessary newsletters.
And a lot of emails have made that a lot simpler to do. Like a lot of the email clients now have, this is from a subscription list. Do you want to unsubscribe? And you just click that button and it unsubscribes.
Yes. Otherwise, you can typically scroll to
All the way to the bottom.
all the way to the bottom, and it'll either say unsubscribe here or email preferences or something along those lines.
Yeah,
that
they
you can-
legally have to put that in their email.
Sometimes they make it a little bit hard to find.
so tricky.
But I try to, on a daily basis, because I'm pretty guilty about signing up for a newsletter to get
The 10% off.
not even discounts. For me, it's like a free printable or a free pattern.
Oh, sure.
Or something like that. I end up getting all these newsletters, and so every day, once it comes in, if I know I haven't opened these all week, I just go ahead and unsubscribe right then.
That's brilliant. Yeah, if you stay on top of it, it's a lot easier. The other tricky thing that a lot of email lists will do, you sign up for their whatever overall list, but the way they've done it in the back end is they have different filters.
Yes.
And so you're automatically signed up for like 10 of their filters. So let's say one email comes in that's in their marketing filter, and you unsubscribe from that, but that's just unsubscribing you from the marketing filter. It's not
Right,
necessarily
that's not like
your,
the weekend coupon deal.
yeah, or the newsletter or whatever.
Right. Or this is from our blog roll. They'll
Right.
have it into 10 different categories, and they're all kind of the same, but they're just different enough.
If you're able to update preferences, that's the way I've found is the best. So instead of just unsubscribing from that one particular email, you can go in and there's usually an update preferences, at which point you can unclick every single possible filter that you could be in.
I feel like they're very intentional about how they word it to make it a little bit confusing.
Little tricksters.
Yeah. I mean, you really have to pay attention to what you're clicking.
And the way you're checking, like sometimes you're thinking you're checking off, but actually you're checking on. So,
Yes.
Or like the little dot. Sometimes you don't know if the dot is pressed or not
Yeah.
pressed.
They don't want you to go.
They don't.
Next up, deleting emails. This is a huge one. Just deleting them. So I will go through, and there might be a newsletter. For instance, I was in a running club in Brooklyn, and I opened those emails. I was active in the group. But when we left New York, I still had all of those in my inbox. So what I like to do is, in my search bar, type that group, and it'll show every single email, and then you can select all and delete.
Right.
So maybe every few months, I'll realize that I got an email from them, or I just think about this company I used to use, and I'll just go through and delete them all, which is...
Well, and then the next step is to also empty your trash. Because just
Right.
by deleting them, then they go into your trash box.
And the trash is typically deleted after a set amount of days.
You can set it.
I think for
or
me,
you
it's
can say
30.
don't ever delete.
Our next tip is to keep emails short and to the point, which is funny because the idea behind it is that the more time you spend on your computer writing an email, you're just using more energy, more server space, all of that. So even though we were joking about like including a little update about your family to make that thank you email count, I think ultimately that's probably not great because...
I guess thanks is better.
Because also, if you write a long email, then the recipient has to spend more time reading it.
Oh, yeah. Endless cycle.
Which leads us to our next tip, which is to develop telepathy so that you don't have to send emails or texts. You just know what you're thinking. But,
Oh, yeah. This is a really helpful episode. I can tell already. People are like, wait, so we don't send small things. Wait, so we do. Wait, so we learn to read minds. That's ultimately the goal.
Okay, but an actual tip. don't reply all unless it's to everyone.
Oh my gosh.
And this was also
Talk about sustainability on a whole other level.
yeah, emotional, mental.
Yes.
I don't need to receive everyone's I'm coming
Oh my gosh.
response
Please
to the email.
No.
or
no.
do you remember the chain
Please
mails?
BCC if you can.
Remember?
When you're sending an email, please BCC.
Yeah. You only need to respond
Blind carbon copy is what that stands for. And so everyone is getting the same email, but not everyone sees the email addresses. So when they respond, it just goes to the initial sender.
That's a much better way. Do you remember the chain mails that used to
Yeah.
come around? It's like
during
you have
AOL
to
days.
send this with these letters.
You have to
and-
send to 7 people.
or else you have terrible luck for the
Yeah.
next decade. And then
Which started off as like snail mail chain letter. Like that was a thing before emails. And
Was it?
Yes, and it transitioned into emails.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just remember someone sending it to the entire school, basically, because I was in school when these started. The entire class would get this email, and then everyone responds like, I'm not going to have bad luck for the next 10 years. Are you kidding me? Anyway, stop sending those. Terrible for the environment.
I don't get those anymore. Thank
I haven't in
goodness.
a long time. Every once in a while, but it's always...
Do you really still get those?
I hate to call out the older generation, but it tends to be maybe a few people
Okay.
who a tiny bit of paranoia. I don't
All
know.
right. Okay.
And finally, send links instead of attachments.
Mentally, like just telepathically.
Yes, in your emails, an attachment is going to require a lot more space than just the link to what already exists.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of times when you're trying to open an attachment on your phone, it's a hot mess. With a link, that information is being stored in one location where multiple people can access it. As opposed to if you're sending attachments, that attachment sits in your email box and in the sender's email box.
And then
Like, it's-
every time you reply,
it's always part of
it just
that.
keeps
It's just hanging out there.
hanging out. Sometimes sending multiple times.
So clingy, that attachment.
Right? Attachment issues.
All right, so we've talked about how to declutter your email inbox. Now let's move on to your actual snail mailbox.
Yeah, we want to get rid of that snail mail trail.
When we were first going low waste, we signed up for catalogchoice.org and dmachoice.org. And both of those helped us to get rid of the catalogs that were coming in and all of that junk mail.
Tackling junk mail was one of the first easiest things you could do to lower your waste. It was like you sit down at a computer for 30 minutes, go to a handful of websites to sign up, and then our junk mail was decreased by about 90%.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how quickly that just takes hold. And then there are even ways to do that with email, like spam mail. Through the dmachoice.org website, they have an email preferences so that you can go in and try and minimize the amount of spam mail that you're getting. And then I don't know if you get the big envelopes full of coupons. Do you get
Not anymore, but when we used to live near here, we would get the coupons. And I remember thinking, I've unsubscribed to so many things.
know.
How
We're
could I still
getting
get
them.
this?
Because it's a separate kind of a thing. But you can actually go on their website and opt out there. And then for credit card offers, opt out pre-screen is fantastic for that. So these are 4 different ways. So you've got your ads, you've got your catalogs, your spam, your credit card offers, and your coupons that you're able to pretty quickly make a large impact on the amount of junk mail coming into your house.
Yeah, I noticed a difference within a few weeks. And we've moved around a lot. I mean, I lived in New York. I had a few apartments there. I lived in New Orleans. I moved here. So we were always dealing with junk mail, and I could not believe how effective that was. And then I learned that if I was still getting junk mail after that, like the coupon books that you mentioned, I would look on their website or just type it in, how to unsubscribe from this. And there was usually some information about how to do it, whether through their website or who to contact.
Again, legally, I think they have to.
Give you that option.
Yes.
Also, with how many apartments we were moving to, we would get a lot of previous tenant
Right.
mail. And the best way to deal with that is to say, hey, wait a minute, Mr. Mail Carrier. Wait, you know what I mean. Anyway, what we would actually do is never speak to the person delivering and instead write on the letter, no longer at this address.
Yeah, or return to sender.
Yeah.
And then you stick it back in that mailbox, put the little flag up.
Yeah, and they pick it up, and then through the post office, they make those changes.
For anyone who doesn't know how mail works.
I mean,
No, I feel like it's probably a lot of people.
yeah.
At this point, not a lot of people are
You might not know.
putting out box mail.
Outbox. Yeah.
One other thing that's a quick and easy way to minimize the amount of paper coming into your mailbox is just going paperless.
Right. You can do that with your bank statements and credit cards. We recently got that option through our pediatrician. All correspondence would be
Utilities.
paperless. Yep.
It's become very easy to do.
Yeah, and it also saves them money. They don't have to
Right.
print out physical bills and put the stamp and everything on it.
And then send another one if you didn't pay it to say it's past due.
And then send another one to say you're not allowed here anymore.
And then let's say you're still getting paper. If you're like Allie, you're probably going to make paper cards out of it. You're probably going to blend it up and make pulp and then make new paper.
I have done that.
I figured.
We last year, and I mentioned this in the Valentine's episode, we made seed paper Valentines.
Right.
But what I saved the most for is just for my kids to color on.
Oh, yeah. That's what we do at the shop. We have, like, anytime we've got a shipment coming in, it's going to have a breakdown of the inventory that we've ordered and how many and all of that. And so we just use that as scrap paper at the shop.
But maybe you don't want to save your junk mail. A lot of it can be recycled. However, if it has a little shine to it, as previously mentioned, that means it has a plastic element and it's not recyclable.
If it's something like a newspaper, though, you could probably just compost it. And that way you're not having to think about the resources needed for recycling. At the shop, we don't do any deliveries or anything like that, but we do receive a lot of deliveries. And so all of that brown packing paper that we receive and all of that, we actually take it and give it back out to the community. And so even if it's something like envelopes, a lot of times we'll get envelopes that we reuse for the community, like the bubble mailers or things like that.
We keep all of ours too, just in case. I don't have a lot of sending to do, but someday I might. And when that day
You
comes,
will be ready.
I'll have a bag full. And if you are a letter sender or a card sender, you can either make your own or keep an eye out for stationery that's made of recycled material. Post-consumer recycled waste is the most sustainable option you can find.
And they have stationery, they have cards, they've got envelopes. I mean, pretty much anything you would need if you wanted to actually physically send a letter in the most sustainable way possible. Even stamps. There are some stamps that support conservation efforts.
That's true.
So you could take it a step
portion
further.
of every stamp you buy goes to that group. It's hard to know the exact comparison between one letter and one email, environmentally speaking. But there are times when snail mail definitely wins.
Maybe not in thinking strictly sustainability for the earth, but sustainability as a whole. Like, for instance, I feel like a love letter, sending a physical letter means a lot more, and so therefore is perhaps more sustainable in a way.
But you could also argue that if you send a love letter via email, that's being held onto and stored on a server for years and years.
So it does make sense to send it a physical one, unless
Yeah.
you're going to print it out and delete it, which you could do.
You could do, or you take your junk mail, you take your hospital bill, write on the back of the love letter, and then send that.
Oh, there you go.
I imagine if you're going to send a letter, it's probably a good idea to send it through the Postal Service because it's already making those routes every day.
Oh, like dropping it off at the post office?
Or having them pick it up from your mailbox. The postal trucks are doing the same route every day. Come rain, come shine. come wind, come rain, come snow.
In fact, they are optimizing their truck routes to try and reduce emissions overall.
Oh, like mapping out the most efficient way?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they actually have a lot of sustainability goals. They're reducing their emissions further by minimizing the amount of air travel and then focusing more on fuel efficient surface transportation, which I guess is like driving around.
Would that include trains?
Oh, probably. That would make a lot of sense. I was like, why would they say surface transportation instead of just like... And this was surprising to me. USPS owns a third of all government vehicles, ranking only second to the Department of Defense.
Oh, interesting.
And so as of this recording, I know things are changing a lot these days around climate goals,
Yeah.
but they have a next generation delivery vehicle program that's modernizing their fleet. So they're trying to get safer and greener vehicles in rotation by 2028.
I would like to see that happen.
I would love to see that happen,
That feels like some big goals.
but achievable.
Yeah.
FedEx, UPS, and Amazon have also put forth some sustainability goals, but we're going to just have to wait and see if they deliver.
Pun intended. So, listeners, this is a good time, if you're not driving, we have to say, to sit down and delete up at least 50 emails. Make it a minimum. If you deleted 1,000 emails right now, that would be like skipping a short car trip.
That's a great challenge for your email inbox. And for your actual mailbox, go to the different websites that we mentioned earlier and go ahead and opt out of all the junk mail.
You need, I think, 15 minutes tops.
You can do it.
We believe in you so hard.
You are amazing.
And a final challenge, write a letter to a friend.
Or a representative.
A representative.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we want stricter laws.
Hey guys, we want a healthy planet.
Hey, guys, we would love if our kids had a planet to grow up on.
And clean water to drink.
However you want to word it, obviously. We've covered lots of sustainable ways for you to be the total package.
Say goodbye to all those old emails. Unsubscribe from the junk. And if you're sending mail, make it count.
Like a meaningful handwritten letter or carbon neutral shipping. That has our stamp of approval.
Signed, sealed, delivered. We're yours.
One can hope.